policy and is ready to be unveiled. In fact, we are on the last part of it. Before that, we created a technical team that went around to collect data. Because before you have a policy, there are things I did when I found this very climate change in the Enugu State. We started engaging the local government, because there's no way you can get policy without engaging the people on the I call them sub states from the local government. You talk to them, you try to liaise with them on issue of food security, on issue of gender problems, on issue of youth, on issue of sports, rural development, chieftaincy issues, and the rest of them. So you have to engage them. You have to talk to them. You must have a lead, and you must talk to them in their own dialect. Try to see what is going on. Even national adaptation, there's in federal government, there's what we call national adaptation plan. They came in different times in the states to make sure that we engage the people from the rural. So those from the rural gave us insight of what is happening when it comes to crop core yields, how some families equally lose their husband and how some husbands lose their wife because of things that are happening. So these are the things we got. I'm just mentioning just a few, because there are many things that we had. Now, by the time you now try to check on what concerns you, even if you come to any sector, you will talk about that sector in a way that it affects you. When you come to gender, you check exactly how it affects your state in gender. When it comes to youth, when it comes to health, when it comes to agriculture, the main issue, you now check how it affects agriculture and food security. In fact, it's all encompassing. When you equally come to intergovernmental and interministerial, because we have those ministries, now you check how you relate to others. Now, when you come to other states, we have a voice. The voice state did their own policy 2 years back. So one thing is that, of course, you need to study or understudy their own policy. Whenever we have any program with them, we equally, whenever we have meeting with them, we understudy them, we check what is going on. I suffice to say that Professor Chukwumeri Okereke was equally a lead in the policy of Ebonyi State, and came to equally share, give us the insight and the life pattern of how we can follow the Enugu State policy. So these are the ways we fashioned it, and I think that's exactly what made the policy to be a success. Now, in that technical team, we divided the technical team, those that run around to get more data. You know, in the issue of data, you may get a data now, the next moment it may change. So we collected data this year, data on agriculture, data on industrial emission, data on other areas. We collected them together this year to now check to make sure that the policy must be in tune with what is going on now.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Namdi. Thank you. Mr. Elias, can you tell us also how has your state climate policy evolved alongside federal guidance? If you have examples of collaboration with neighboring states or with the federal government, you can share with us, please.
Thank you. Our policy in the states is, something brought out of what we have in the national policy. Then we now have specifics that are, peculiar to our own situation in Kwara State. Like I told you earlier, even the National Climate Change Act is being domesticated so that will give the policy a legal backing. We collaborate a lot with both the Federal Minister of Environment and the National Council on Climate Change. They attend their workshops and trainings, and they get data from us. For instance, the BTR, biannual transparency report, we give them data on greenhouse gas emission inventory. Then also, you are aware that Nigeria is submitting its NDC by this December. We are part of the coalition of our contributions to climate change. That's what we call the nationally determined contribution. So Kwara State also participated in the workshop and submitted, data concerning, waste generation, waste water management, and many other things, tree planting that the state is doing as a part of the national, nationally determined contributions, which will be submitted to the United Nations Framework on a Convention on Climate Change. We also participated in the National Adaptation Plan, but they took 9 states as pilot states, and Kwara State was one of the states they used as pilot states to determine the National Adaptation Plan, which we also cascade to the states to have the state adaptation plan. All this we do both with the Federal Ministry of Environment and National Council on Climate Change. Other national agencies too, we collaborate with them. We attend National Council on Environment yearly. We also, in fact, we have a liaison officer in our ministry who is representing, the Federal Ministry of Environment in the state in terms of a project, World Bank project that we call SPECS, that's Sustainable Environment, Social and Procurement Project. So we do a lot together. There are some other national bodies like NIPADEC that we collaborate with. Also, the same thing with NEMA, National Emergency Management Agency. So we do all this together to ensure that we have a climate resilient Kwara State and a climate resilient Nigeria. So that's all that we do with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elias. Thank you for all the elements that you just shared with us. Mr. Yahuda,
Yes,
are you
ma'am.
here, sir? Yes.
Yes.
So, can you tell us how has your state climate policy evolved alongside federal guidance? And can you share examples of your states collaborating with neighboring states or with the federal government at large?
Yes. Nasarawa State were able to produce our climate change policy 2023 with the help of GIFSEP, that's Global Initiative for Safety Ecosystem Preservation. So they help us in developing the NASPOC, that's Nasarawa State Policy on Climate Change 2023. And this, we also use that of the National Policy on Climate Change. That was the collaboration and the understanding, the one that we have from the national. We use it as a guide. And also, before we come up with this, there was a study working visit to Kaduna State, where they are our neighboring state, and we know that they have a kind of a climate change policy on ground as of then. So our state, we have delegated some directors, especially that of the climate change and other directors. They went to the Kaduna State. So on a study working visit, they get their own, and along with that of the federal policy on climate change, we use it as a guide to now come out with a Nasarawa State policy on climate change. And during the process, all the stakeholders were engaged in the production. We find out that academia were used. We have a prof from Abuja University. He was the one that served as the chairman, or that's the lead consultant in this production of the NASPOC policy. Then we have all the medias and the NGOs we are engaged in the production. And we also have the engagement of people living with disabilities. We engage them also because it's very necessary for the planning. And we have women and youth. We are also involved in the production of the policy. So we have a robust policy on ground, waiting for, try to see how His Excellency Engineer Sule will launch it and how we can put it into use, although without the launch, we are using it EP presently. Thank you, ma'am. Hello.
I'm very sorry. I have been muted
Yeah.
all this while. Thank you
Sure.
very much, Mr. Yahuda.
Thank
And
you,
we
ma'am.
are going to take our next question, starting with Mr. Elias. So, how does your state engage local populations based? If you can even we heard Mr. Yahuda mention some examples of that. How
Mm.
does your state engage local populations, especially marginalized groups in climate planning? What has been the grassroots impact, and
Engagement.
how are how does that niche of the population participate in or engage with your different activities, climate action activities?
Okay, thank you. We have a good, awareness campaign that we do. We go to the markets. We invite people from different organizations, CBO, FBO, CSO, that we discuss together every month for our last Saturday of the month environmental sanitation exercise, so that people will have sense of belonging. That is why some, policies are not, or are failing, because we don't carry people along. We have a unit here that is called environmental impact assessment. For any new projects or ongoing projects, you have to assess. And when we carry out assessment, there is a section of that assessment that we call stakeholders engagement. Okay. There is a section that the proponent of a project has to submit his environmental impact report to the ministry for public display, so that people will be aware that so project is ongoing, so the issue of complaints, concerns will be raised, and we look into it. We also engage the Federal Minister of Environment on any project in our state on what we call panel review. When they come for panel review, our ministry is well carried along. Then the concerned communities, the NGOs, the physically challenged, the gender inclusion, are well, considered before they can be, approved for continuation of such projects. In some cases, we have seen stakeholders, community people that will say, okay, this project should be given alternative routes. For example, construction of roads. That they will advise, no, don't let the road pass through so place, because of their own indigenous knowledge that they have about that community. And all these things have been helping, so that at the end of the day, when you finish the project, the people in the community will make use of it. They will not abandon it for you, that after all, you didn't carry them along. Or by the time the problem comes, they will let you know it's because they did not seek for their own indigenous knowledge to tell you where and where you should, pass your road or your transmission line in terms of electrifying a community. So all this we do with community people. Our policy, like I told you, community engagement was involved, so that people will give their idea. Yearly, we celebrate World Environment Day. We don't limit it to people or civil servants in MDs. We invite different people that will represent different, sectors. The people in the private sectors, the non-state actors, they are all involved. In fact, schools especially, because we know that by the time you take an awareness to the school or to markets, you are taking it to almost everywhere, because you know the population there. So when they get home, they distribute this information here and there. Just like I told you about National Adaptation Plan, the Kwara State was one of the states that was selected for the pilot, compilation of the data. We involve, different communities, different organizations, the physically challenged people, and market women. This association of recyclers, because they are the one picking waste here and there, so that our waterways are not polluted with plastics. We invited them to also make their own contribution. So such will bring, sustainability, because people are well carried along. It is when you don't carry people along that the lifespan of the project will be short. So this is what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elias. Mr. Namdi, would you like to tell us how you engage the local populations of Enugu, especially the marginalized groups, How do you include them into climate planning? And what has been the impact on those groups?
Thank you very much. Before we started this climate change in Enugu State, as I said, it was an effort of myself and one other lady, one Jane from Peter, who is late now. We started this journey in 2012. The department was created in 2012 and 2013. I became the first head of unit. The first thing we did was to have an interministerial committee on climate change that we appointed people from different ministries, male and female, from different ministries. After that, we now appointed intergovernmental. I decided when I came to the federal government for the meeting, I told them that there is a need, since we have people from the states, like from the subnationals, that come for a meeting in the federal level and the federal circle, that we, the state, must have people in the local government that those things will have to be replicated to the local level. And we must have people that will speak the local dialect. Because if you come to my state, different local government, they speak the same English, but in most times it's different quality intonation, So you bring people that know the dialect of these areas. So now, when you appoint them, we bring them to the town, tell them about climate change, and then cascade all the things we know about climate change to them. Now, from there, we move towards, politically, we have to make a good move towards, appoint people on ward level, party level, that is ward level, to make sure that it gets to the party level. Because when it goes to the party level and the ward level, you are equally touching the local governments. And you are equally bringing in different sectors of local government that are made up of men, women, youth, both female and female. So these are the way we did to make sure that we collaborate, we make sure we bring them on board. So when you get to the local government, you teach them. In last year, no, early this year, we had a program where we used the local dialect. It was a must that we talk to them in the local government, in the local dialect. Sometimes it will be very, very difficult for you to interpret what climate change is in the local dialect. When you say, okay, what is climate change? How can you interpret climate change in local dialect? So sometimes it will be very, very difficult. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to tell them about certain ways of mitigation, certain ways of adaptation. But somehow we know people that are speaking, that understand English, that will still use their own dialect to cascade all these things to them. So when you talk about local government, then we go to local government proper to check exactly what they need when it comes to agricultural base, climate smart agriculture, and then certain areas of involvement like transportation. You check the way it affects them, and then plan alongside with them. There's this NGO called Solidarity. They are into climate smart agriculture. They have mapped out all the local government and each community. In each community, they bring up people they call the savers, and then they empower them monetarily to make sure that they meet up with the way they do their own go about their farming activities. That farming activity encourage them on issue of climate smart agriculture. There's another one made of youth, NCYF. They collaborate with us, we talk to the youth and let them to start doing the climate smart agriculture when it's based on planting things, having farm produce that will be planted not with the contemporary style, but with the current style because of climate program. So all these things are done in the rural areas. We invite them to the state town, and then we still go down to wherever they are to talk to them. So we have engaged local government in a very big way. In fact, in most areas, we talk to the local government chairman and their deputies to give us somebody that must be coming to the state government to know exactly what is going on. We still call them desk officers from the local government headquarters. So it's just that politically, sometimes when they rejig commissioners, some will tell you to start afresh. But I think from there we have entered the place. Then we equally engage them educationally. If you go to the schools, you do awareness campaign on educational awareness, and that one has not gone too far. but we are still trying to expatiate on that and develop that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Namdi. I have a specific question for you. Positioned, Enugu State was positioned at the 18th, at the 18th stage at the national ranking in terms of climate change or climate action. With this average rating, Enugu has been developing its climate policies and action plans. What are the challenges that Enugu has faced in finalizing and implementing these policies? And how is the state planning to enhance its climate governance framework to improve its ranking? Because we know there's always room for improvement. Hello?
So someone was calling, that call was entering, so the whole thing froze. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Yes, I was saying that Enugu State has been positioned at the 18th place, which is
18th.
with Enugu State is at the 18th position on the National Climate Change Ranking or National Climate Action Ranking. So now we believe that with that ranking, Enugu has been developing climate policies and action plans. So what are the challenges faced in finalizing and implementing these policies? And how is the state planning to enhance its climate governance framework to improve its ranking?
First of all, I would like to know the organization that ranks Enugu State. I would like you to please say it well. It's done when you say national, it's not federal government. So we need to know the organization that ranked Enugu State 18. I'm aware of it, but I would like to mention the organization. I want to hear from you the organization that ranked Enugu State.
So there is a 2024 Climate Governance Performance Ranking Report launched by the 2024 launched by the Society for Planet and Prosperity in collaboration with the Ministry of Environment.
Thank you very much. So I like what you said, and I like the way you just spoke about it. I am not a fan of ranking because people can come and state certain things and rank whatever they want to rank. But the fact is that there are actions people are putting in place that may not be seen. For example, it's very difficult for us to convince so many people about climate change when we are trying to build it up. Some states that are being talked about, yes, you might have a questionnaire or send a questionnaire across board and tell people to start filling. And when people fill that form, people might manipulate their phone and send them through that, it may be wrong. When you talk about policy work, we have been trying to do policy, we have been trying to build up policy, although we have been restricted by government nonchalancy in the past, of which this new government is doing a whole lot to bring everything to an equilibrium, to make sure that climate change is being heard and things are happening in any state. But aside from that, when you see a dog swimming, you will know the extent the legs are going when it comes to paddling. So I am not disturbed about that, and I have never been disturbed about the ranking. I am focused and know that we are going to a very far place. So ranking should not make me, as when I come first, I should not say, this people gave me first, and I am doing well. No, it's not it. I'm not rating anything on any state based on any person's ranking, any person's opinion, because I know how far we've gone. I know how sometimes we use our pocket monies before this government to go for programs, to attend programs, to even call on IT students, teach them without being paid. So it's not a matter of, we know the places we have gone. I did forest copy in the 814 and some local governments. I did it on my own when used a vehicle, a Hilux vehicle, was going there using security, and then did the forest copy to checkmate the forest. And I call people on that. So it's not a matter of ranking. There are things people have done. There are people, I've met people that we are discouraging in nature. You meet them, tell them about climate change, they'll say that they see nothing about climate change. Climate is not changing. And those people may happen to be your bosses. And you start telling them about climate change, they will be sleeping in the office when you are explaining to them. So I've equally attracted national green booster for my state. We shared it among the 17 local governments. National green booster, we called them, they came to the office, they picked it in 2019. So in 2019, we equally hosted the Federal Minister of Environment on awareness campaign on the Enugu State. And then you know that we spent a whole lot of money in the Enugu State. My commissioner, myself, the state government, they spent some money to make sure that all these things are happening. We went to some areas where we met with the restriction from the local there, not to enter the forest and all that. So on issue of ranking, I am not disturbed because I know how much I've gone through. So when you use data and questionnaire to rank a particular state, I know what Osun State governor said. If you watch what Osun State governor said about the ranking, as Adeleke, the president governor, he was angry. Who is ranking my state and of what parameter? So sometimes few people may say something. I say Igbo said, Enugu State said, Hausa said, Yoruba said. People may go down and say something and then rank whatever they want to. But I still respect the people that are ranked. I still respect the society that are ranked. At least with that very opportunity, others may know, okay, there are people who are coming to tell you that they are watching, they are checking certain things. It will make you to be on your feet also, to do whatever you have to do and do it well. It's not on eye service. It's not because somebody wants to monitor you, but because you want to do what is real and what people will benefit from, and what will benefit your generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Namdi. Let's continue with Kwara State. So the Kwara State was ranked 10th and it's rated as good in climate governance. And Kwara has shown notable progress in climate policy and budgetary allocation. So we would like to know what specific measures has driven Kwara's advancement in integrating climate consideration into policy and finance, and what outcomes have these measures produced?
Thank you. Let me start from the ranking. The ranking was based on information available to the organization. So they may not be perfect anyway. I remember when they were asking me questions then, they were asking me also to provide evidence of some of the answers, which I had to look twice and snap and send to them. Are you getting it? So it's to some extent, not perfect, and anybody has the right to a kind of contest it. And I must tell you, it's a very good thing to check, just like my colleague said, to check people that, oh, you are watching what you are doing. I want to promise you here and promise my state, for the next ranking, Kwara State is going to be among the first five by the grace of God. We are, doing what will better our performance in the 2024 ranking. Our policy, you see, like I told you earlier, the policy was also, derived from the national policy, and then area of specifics were considered. It was designed or, compiled by a professor of note that is even recommended or recognized by the Federal Minister of Environment, Professor Ladiko. So I'm one or two doctors that supported it. So it's robust, like I told you earlier, and many aspects are considered, including the public and private entities. The issue of energy efficiency, waste management, waste recycling, renewable energy, and so many initiatives are considered and built into that policy that is helping us a lot. Like the private organizations or entities, once you have up to 25 staff, you have comply with carbon budgets. You must not emit the budget as stated in the national
Mr.
climate change
Elias, we
act.
can't hear you clearly. The sound is not, the sound is, there's a lot of echo. We can't hear you clearly.
Oh,
So
oh my God.
the
So
question that we
from
asked
where
was, what are the
did
specific
you listen?
measures?
Yes,
What are the specific measures driven by Kwara's advancement in integrating climate consideration into policy and finance, and what are the outcomes that have been produced so that it can help the other states to also be ahead in the
yes.
ranking?
Thank you. Just like I told you, though I should not be divulging all this information, but here we are all here, to do a kind of knowledge transfer and
Of
exchange of
course,
knowledge.
for the
Thank
good
you.
of the whole
So,
Nigeria.
thank you very much. So, the area of waste recycling, are you getting it? Energy efficiency, renewable energy, these are all the areas that we considered in the climate policy. The idea of having a clean energy in carrying out industrial processes, because we consider the private entities, those manufacturers, those factory owners, so that all these were built in the policy to ensure that if, for instance, you have up to 20 action plan that will reduce your carbon footprint, and you should comply with the carbon budget as it is in the National Climate Change Act. There is a level of carbon that you should emit unless you are ready to buy what we call carbon credit to offset your excess carbon emission. All this we do in order to ensure that the policy is robust. Like I told you, the
Okay.
policy was developed by a professor, well recognized even by Federal Minister of Environment. Thank
Okay.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Elias. Mr. Yehuda,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
the Nasarawa State was ranked 32nd, and we
Yes.
believe that the Nasarawa State has faced challenges in climate governance. So, what are the primary barriers that you have faced in implementing climate policy effectively? And what are the strategies that you've been considering to improve your performance and consequently improve your ranking?
Yes, according to what my colleague said, and I think for Nasarawa State ranked 32, it's funny but not funny. It depends on what the researcher was after, and that's how he comes out with what he gave as 32nd in ranking. Anyway, notwithstanding, just as we have said, there's problem of climate change impacts mitigation and adaptation in the state. We want more political will to come into it because that serves as a challenge. And also, there is need for maybe more knowledge on the climate change impacts and mitigation, so that we should know how to adapt and how to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And we already talked about the issue of attitudinal change by the people, and also the need for prioritize the climate change impacts activities in the state. So, and in addition to that, I think there is need for more advocacy and sensitization to the state actors, so that they will know the importance of buying in the ideas of climate change mitigation and adaptation, and the need for them to at least have to prioritize the issue of climate change mitigation and adaptation in the state. And we need to increase the activities on climate change impacts mitigation and adaptation. We need to increase the activities in them, and also increase the budget line for climate change mitigation and adaptation. We know that when we carry out this, it will help in bringing robust activities on climate change, so that we can have at least a good mitigation and adaptation on climate change. And I don't know, maybe I know you will still have come out with a question on issue of what we truly need for the state. I think there are gaps that state will need to set up, issue of capacity building. So we need to at least have capacity building so that we increase the issue of climate change adaptation and mitigation. And I also have the needs of developing climate action plan for the state. We have the policy, but we need to come out with maybe with a 5 years or 3 years program, usually on a climate action plan for the state. And just as I've said, this, when we have it on ground, I think it will go a long way in increasing our ranking to maybe first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We want you to have in mind that we strongly believe that all the states in Nigeria and all those who are part of this ranking are actively working towards improving not only climate change or the climate action sector or climate change in Nigeria, but we believe that every action that is being done at every subnational level contributes to making Nigeria or to making Nigeria safer, environmentally speaking. Thank you. And even in the terms of developing our communities and building more resilient communities. So Climate Action Africa, we really want to appreciate all the efforts that have been put in place by all the states so far. No matter the position that is being held in this ranking, we deeply appreciate all the efforts that are being put in, because one single effort is enough to create a domino of change and a domino effect of changes that improve our environment. So thank you all so much. We are already way above our allocated time. It was quite an interesting session today. This is SOS, Scorecard of States, unveiling climate action at the subnational level. And we had with us the Kwara States, we had a representative of Nasarawa States and Enugu States. And now we are actually concluding already this session, and this is the last session or the last episode of SOS for the year 2024. So we are going to take questions, if any, from our comments and chat box, and we'll answer them rapidly. So we have Mr. Daniel, who says, "Hello everyone, I'm Daniel Sihimwani from the DRC. I'm the country director at Sinesha DRC, the network of young Catholics for a sustainable environment in Africa. It was with interest that I followed the presentation of the panelists. I would like to ask the first panelist who spoke about environmental education in the church, what positive impact has he already noticed from their action?" Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Elias, were you the first person, the first panelist?
Yes.
Yes. So the question is yours. He would like to know what are the positive impacts that you have already noticed from your actions, from the sustainable actions that you have carried out with the church, education in the church to be precise.
Yes, the education in the church actually is in the area of noise pollution and waste management. You know, it's like we were trying to take advantage of the population of people that, come to church so that from there match it with religion so that they will be able to spread this awareness on the issue of climate change and environmental assessment. And it is working, honestly. In fact, we have somebody presenting, I think maybe one church, I can't remember the name. She's always with us during the monthly environmental sanitation exercise. he goes with the team and, join us in ensuring that people comply and people stay at home to observe the sanitation. Then they are helping us to spread the awareness during sermon in the church, and anytime we have meeting, we consider them and also the Muslims as faith-based organization. And this is helping a lot because their followers listen more to them than even we that are, the regulators. So this is helping. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that is the question, the only and last question that we are going to take for today's session, as we have come to the end of the allocated time that we had for this episode of SOS today. Thank you all so much. Thank you for all those who joined in today for the first time. This is an initiative, or this is a project launched by Climate Action Africa, and it is an honor for us to have you here. Our next episode for SOS will be in January, and like all the previous ones, it's going to be on the last Thursday of the month of January. Please do not hesitate to follow us on social media, Climate Action Africa, and this, as you would know, or as you notice on your screen, is being redirected live on YouTube. So you can always go to YouTube and rewatch this, and you would have more insights. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to drop them either on the comment section or even write to us on our website. Also, all the previous episodes of SOS are present on our YouTube channel. Please, you feel free to go ahead and rewatch them, as they are full of many insights and many nuggets, as we have seen today. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our very honorable and distinguished guests. It was an honor for me to be your host and moderator for today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, we need
Thank
our
you.
pictures, the scorecard pictures.
Yes, of course. The flyers
Thank
were
you
sent to
very
you.
Yeah, send it to the WhatsApp message for report purposes to our ministries. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Bye. You are passing, I think.
Yes, I am Pasi.
Passing
Yes.
to do whatever.
Pasi
Pasi
Tunji. Yes.
Pasi Tunji.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Pasi.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.